Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Riding in Cars with Books. I'm Jaclyn,
And I'm Phillip.
and today we are going to be discussing 6 Days, the incredible story of D-Day's lost chapter by Robert Vennditti and Kevin Maurer, and it is published by DC Vertigo. So this is based on a true story of one of D-Day's worst mistakes. This 82nd Airborne Division was supposed to land outside of Normandy behind the other folks we were talking about.
Right. So this is the paratrooper airborne division, not the landing at Normandy Beach where storming. They were supposed to land outside of that to help support everything with all the guns, ammo.
They had the 50-pound backpacks,
Right.
all the equipment that they needed for this invasion to go properly, but they landed 15 miles outside of their dropping point, and they landed near this small town called Graignes. And thankfully, they were welcomed with open arms by the French people. And on the 10th of June, so they landed on the 6th. On the 10th of June, Germany storms and there's a 2-day battle. That's the general idea here. Um, would you like to add to that? The synopsis? Would you like to add to the synopsis? Okay. So I just want to talk about how important of a story this is because of the French people and the American soldiers coming together to fight together for this freedom from this war. And that's not really a story that you hear often when it comes to World War II, I feel like.
And you don't also hear a lot of stories that didn't take place on the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is a story that it was all a part of that in that assault on Normandy, but with these people landing 15 miles away, it's not like they could trek to where they needed to be.
Yeah.
So they had to hole up in this town.
They had to gather all of the equipment that landed in these swamps. Germany had set up and basically flooded these swamps, and they were trying to recover all of their supplies and then come meet them at the front to still have an effect on this battle. And they had no idea what was going on the front because they're 15 miles away. So I don't really they didn't have telephones and stuff.
They had a carrier pigeon.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. The carrier pigeon. I'm like, how does this work? So the carrier pigeon was a big part of the story, and I just like seeing the French people. Like the women were cooking for the soldiers, and they were going to church. There was one scene of people in America and the people over in this small village in France. They were going to church at the same time, and that's kind of when the battle started. And you see what's going on over here versus what's going on over there, and how the people are reacting to what's going on. And the art did a really good job showing. I mean, it's a war story, so it's going to be a lot of violence, a lot. It's just very sad story to talk about. But it's a very important part of history, so I think more people should read this book.
Right. And then through this battle, I believe there was 28 American soldiers killed, 26 of the French villagers were killed, and then there was hundreds of the German soldiers killed and hundreds more wounded for them. But this story is also important because it was also where one of the stories where the Germans came through, and when they came across the American wounded and they captured some of the French villagers, they actually took them out back and executed them instead of taking prisoners, as is the case for the war, but they just executed across the board. And that was included in the 28 Americans and 26.
Yeah, a lot of the wounded were gathered up and executed, and then the villagers were executed for helping. but they knew that was probably going to happen, and they did it anyway.
Right. And I think that was a big part of the story. Was a lot of times through history, it's looked at as some of the French had just gave up, or they had like not wanted to be any part of it as their country got taken over by the Germans. But this was one of the stories that showed that a lot of the French villagers did stand up during this war, and they fought where they could because they were not armed, they were not trained soldiers, but they stood up for this American paratroopers that came in. I think there was 150 something paratroopers around this area, in this village that these people fed. The French helped come in and find their gear, find their ammo. They showed them like weak spots in bridges and stuff like that where the Germans would be coming through. And so for that piece, and then there was, they basically just got overrun though, right? That was what a part of this was, is they, at the end,
Germany just came in and took over the city. They lost more soldiers, but they completely devastated the whole town.
Yeah, so that's, Germans came in, they had, tanks and other artillery, where most of the airborne soldiers, they had like one or two mortar.
They took the packs on their back, basically.
Right.
Like, wasn't enough.
Yeah, it was. But it is, I think it's an important story to know outside of your normal D-Day stories.
I hadn't learned of this event before reading this book, so it's just probably a part of forgotten history.
Right, because everyone always focuses on the beaches of Normandy and the storming of Normandy, but that was not everything that was going on in that battle or around that time. Because there was nine planes dropping the paratroopers, and they basically, I don't think we really know if it was inexperienced pilots or if it was
the darkness. It was
they were coming in at nighttime, or what actually put them off. But when the green light came on for them to drop, they dropped, and basically the Germans had opened up a lot of the dikes. They had busted a lot of the dikes and flooded a bunch of fields. So the soldiers at the time also didn't know that, because they thought they were landing near Normandy. And then when they landed in these fields, they used what they were supposed to use as a routine. And a lot of soldiers also drowned through this because
they're taught to roll.
Right, and they were landing
but then they're in water.
Right.
So they're getting stuck in their cords, and they're trapped. And they also have these 50-pound backpacks on. So
right, so things aren't very easy for what they were doing.
So for Memorial Day, we remember all the lives lost. Stories like this are important to share because of their sacrifices.
And if you want to learn more about this story, we're going to have another YouTube video tied into this that is more of a documentary of this battle and what happened more with the paratroopers, if you'd like to learn more about them.
Yeah. So thanks for watching. Like this video if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a comment what you want us to read next. And see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.